Inshallah, we'll continue from where we left off last week. So last week we started with practicing how to pronounce the words, which are the common mistakes people make during the adhan. And then we started some of the rulings regarding the adhan as well. Inshallah, we'll start off with some practice, then we'll go over the rules, and then we'll finish up with some practice. Like last week, the purpose is not to practice melodious tunes or try to do it in a nice, beautiful tune. Even though some people can do that, and that's good, you should do that. But the maqsad or the purpose of this lesson is at least you know how to pronounce the letters correctly. You're not making any major mistakes. So if you're in a masjid, at work, wherever we find ourselves and we need to do the adhan or the iqamah, we should at least know how to pronounce the letters in the correct manner, inshallah. So we'll go through the words, a bit of rehearsal, and then we'll discuss the rules regarding who can give the adhan and who can't give the adhan, inshallah. And what things cancel out the adhan, in which situations we need to repeat the adhan, and so on, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So inshallah, I'll read and then you can practice a copy after me, inshallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
So here, like I mentioned last week, when you say Allahu, who will make your lips round. When you say Ak, you need to pull your lips back. Because if you don't, it sounds like Allahu Akbar. The waw sound will come. Because waw is round lips, Hamza is not round lips. So, ba, a. So if you're ready on who, your lips are already round. So you quickly start the Ak, while your lips are still round, you go to, instead of Ak, it'll be Wak, the waw sound will be in there. So, pull your lips back before you say the Akbar, the Hamza. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Here, if you look at this word, ashhadu, it says an la. There's a moon there, right? So when we recite this, we don't say Allah. We do the hamza and the lam together. That's why the lam has a shadda on it. So ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
And also what we mentioned last week, this sentence, the name of Allah, it finishes with a deep ha, Allah. So when you finish, you don't say Allah, La. Just don't stop on the lam. You should say the ha sound at the end. So, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
So at the end, we had illallah. So the ha at the end should be made clear. Otherwise, you miss the letter out, and which is the name of Allah is left incomplete. And you haven't said the meaning which you're trying to say. So, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
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 Next sentence. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
So normally we say Ashhadu Muhammadur Rasulullah in the first kalima, for example, right? Muhammadur Rasulullah. So Muhammad has no pesh, or he has a pesh, right? But a dhamma. But when we add the word anna, like in this sentence, it will change to a zabar, it will change to a fatha. So you won't say Ashhadu anna Muhammadur. You say Ashhadu anna Muhammadan. So here you have to remember in the first kalima and second kalima, this is a key difference. First kalima is Muhammadur, second kalima will be Ashhadu anna Muhammadan with the fatatain and dhammatain difference. So in the adhan, we have the fatatain. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Same, you finish with the name of Allah, so you have the deep heart at the end. So Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, the heart at the end. In the next sentence we spoke about it in detail last week, we should underline the mistakes, right? So the next is Hayya, we start with the soft ha, Alis, Ain squeaky, and you finish with the deep ha. So Hayya ala salah.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
Okay, so the common mistake is people say hayya. That's the deep ha. It should be the soft ha. Hayya. And you know children when they breathe onto a glass and then they write on top. If you do the deep ha, you can't do that. Yeah, so normally that's the soft ha that's used when children, you know, they breathe onto a glass and try to write. Right? So you should have the soft sound. So حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
The next حي على, the first part is the same. Ha followed by ain. So حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
So in this one, it starts with the soft ha, finish with the soft ha. The previous one started with the soft ha and end with the deep ha. So first one was حي على الصلاة. Second one, حي على الفلاح. Back to the soft sound. Okay? So we do both of them after the inshallah. حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. If you join these two sentences together, Allahu Akbar and Allahu Akbar, it'll become Allahu Akbar Allah. The ra of the first Allahu Akbar is joining the second Allahu Akbar. So normally if you're doing one breath, then you should join them. Okay, so some people, because this, at the start, for example, there's 4 Allahu Akbars, right? So first 2 will be done in one breath, second 2 in one breath. Amtor, we hear people do like Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. In the Hanafi school, both of the Jumlah technically sentences, they should be the same length. So one Allahu Akbar should be more stretched than the other. This is the correct stance of the Hanafi school. But there's no guna doing the other way. If it's melodious, it's still fine. But the actual stance is to keep the jumlas barabar. So like for example, you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And the second time like, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So we do the second one different. Technically, you should try to do it barabar the same. So if you make the first one long, make the second one long. Yeah? But normally, obviously, people do there's fixed tunes, and every culture or every community has their own style. In Pakistan, the azan, even though they're reading correct, the tune is different. The Saudi tune will be different. The Egyptian tune will be different. The Moroccan tune is different. So there's slight variations in the tunes. So there's no issue in that sense, but you should have this in mind. People try to do a tune and then they end up making major mistakes because they're not actually doing a professional tune or a tune in which the letters are the right length. they end up doing their own variations. That, I'm going to make it nice. And then they stop focusing on the pronunciation or the mad or the short harakas, fatha, kasra, dhamma. And then they end up, like some people say, like common mistake is that Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasul. The second mean they make long. But obviously when they're doing their tuning, then the mean goes long according to the tune, that's why. So it's hard for them to keep focused. So whenever you adapt a tune, or you're copying someone, normally obviously you copy a certain tune, the Saudi tune or Egyptian tune, then always remember, whichever adhan you're copying, first listen, check, are they pronouncing correctly? Are they the harakas and the maddas correct? If they are, then adopt the tune. If it just sounds nice, and some people say, mashallah, sounds they are beautiful adhan, and he's making so many major mistakes, but they just look at the tune, if it sounds nice to their ears, mashallah, but the meaning is totally changed. So we need to focus on the meaning as well. So we practice this once more, and then we go to the rules, inshallah. So, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah.
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 Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الصلاة.
حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
حي على الفلاح.
الله أكبر، الله أكبر،
الله أكبر، الله أكبر.
لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله.
And just on the last note, I know we mentioned Allah's name a few times in the Adhan, but if there's a fatha or a dhamma before Allah's name, joined with the lam, then the lam will be read with the heavy mouth. Right? Like Allah. You won't say Allah. But if there's a zir or kasra, as you call it, joining with the lam, it'll be empty mouth. Like for example, Bismillah. You don't say Bismillahir-Rahman. Because if the zabar or fatha or dhamma, zabar and pesh, before the lam of Allah, it'll be full mouth. If there's a kasra, a zir, then it'll be empty mouth. Okay, so like Bismillah and Rasulullah. The pesh and the kasra makes that difference. So that's one, it's a minor mistake. This is empty mouth, full mouth in the lam of Allah is a minor mistake, but it's part of the etiquette of the adhan or the Arabic language itself, or the tilawat. Inshallah, moving on to, so in last lesson we spoke about those people who are qualified to give the adhan. Those people who are allowed to give the adhan. Then we spoke about the subtitles here, so those who got the sheet. Then we spoke about those people who are not allowed to call the adhan. Those who are not qualified for the adhan. And then we finished off with the third one, how should the mu'adhin or the person who's calling the adhan, how should he stand? What's the manners and etiquettes of this person when he's giving the adhan? And then we went through those, the list of the few points that I mentioned there. Any questions regarding this before we continue? Okay, inshallah. So today the ruling of adhan and iqamah. In general, what's the hukm? What's the Islamic stance on adhan? Like we know, for example, namaz is fard. Right? So we know certain things are fard, certain things are sunnah, certain things are wajib. What's the hukam on adhan? So he mentioned adhan and iqamah both are sunnah mu'akkada for men reading the fard salah including Salatul Jumu'ah. So that's one fact they mentioned here. Who calls the adhan? Men. Because previously we discussed that women shouldn't be calling the adhan. So first fact is sunnah mu'akkada for which namaz? For the fard salah. So to the level is so emphasized because one of the signs of our deen that a person who, if he missed the adhan, is not the guna for sunnah mu'akkada, it's the guna for wajib. So leaving it is on the level of a wajib in terms of the sins. But in terms of doing it, the sunnah emphasizes sunnah mu'akkada. So it should be done in basically all circumstances. We should always give the adhan. Then this mentions here as if you're alone or if you're in a group. So if you're alone in a certain place or a certain community, and then when you give the salah, you give the adhan and you give the iqamah. However, if you're at home, then the hukam or the adhan of the masjid is sufficient. Then you just read the iqamah and you do your namaz at home. Because the adhan of the masjid normally is for the community, right? Even though in this country we can't hear it outside because of law restrictions. But generally the hukam is if the adhan is given in the masjid, then the surrounding abadi whose local mosque is, right, they don't need to call the adhan again. But if you live somewhere, just say you live, I don't know, in Dunstable, far end of Dunstable, there's no mosque there, nothing, and you're a Muslim community, so someone should be at least calling the adhan. So even if you call in your house to read the salah, then that'll be the sunnah mu'akkada, sufficient enough. So either you're alone or in your group, you still should either read one of them. So in our homes, if you're reading our namaz alone for the men, at least read the iqamat. Read the iqamat for the namaz. And also mentioned here, if you're a musafir or if you're a resident. So you're not gone on a safar. Islamic safar would be, one opinion is 57 miles, some 59, 61. Whichever opinion you take, right? 57, 59, 61. If you're crossing a boundary with the intention of safar, like I'm traveling to Birmingham, I made the intention, now I'll be a musafir once I leave the boundaries of U-turn. But if I'm only saying I'm going to London, which is 30 miles, I won't be a musafir even if I'm going for all day. Because I'm within the limit after 57 miles. So if you're a musafir or you're a resident in the local area, local means anything less than 57. So if you've gone somewhere 55 miles away from your house, you check, put your tom-tom on, it says 55 miles, you made the intention to go there, even though it's 2 miles off, you still won't be a musafir. So you still read your complete namaz, right? So they mentioned here, the same hukam applies for a musafir and a person who's local. But for the musafir, because of his circumstances, the iqamah is sufficient. It's still sunnah mu'akkada for him to read, but he can just read iqamah. So if you're gone on the M6 and reading at a service station, at least call the iqamah. Yes? So it doesn't mean that you have to call the azan as well because there's no mosque there. So let's do the adhan. So if you do, there's no haraj in that. It's a good thing to do. It strengthens our iman. But you can suffice with the iqamah only. And this is for men generally, right? Because we mentioned before that women don't call the adhan. Next mentions here the local azan, which I've already touched on. The local azan of the masjid is the azan for your house. And then as another note they mentioned, you can't call adhan in any other language. Okay, so the adhan should be done in the Arabic language in its original form. These things might seem common sense, right? But sometimes what happens is, in certain communities, in certain places, people start adopting these attitudes, and it normally happens like I've come across a few brothers who've been in prison, for example. They never read namaz before in their life. Now they've gone to prison and they've been enlightened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving them openings, and they've been inspired to read namaz in prison. We know some people still don't read it, even though they're locked up, they still don't realize the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But those who realize, they read the full Quran they read the Arabic sound like Subhanakallah, like that for example, right? Alhamdu will be A-L-H-A-M, or some to only to the extent that they read the full namaz, but in English, all praise to be to Allah, the most merciful, the most kind, the Lord of the worlds, like this. They actually read the namaz, and I still know one, two brothers who've been in prison, and till this day they still read in English, because they think the purpose of adhan is, so it's not about using our own aql, it's about what the Sharia says. Then, so saying the adhan and the namaz, it should be done in the Arabic language. Adhan should be repeated if started before the start time. So if Zohar starts at, just say 1 o'clock, you started the adhan at 12:59, that adhan doesn't count. Because if you call people to pray in the incorrect time, now you repeat the adhan again once the time has entered. Okay, so it's important to call the adhan within the prayer time. You know, I'm told in masjid, we have like the adhan 15 minutes before the Jamaat. This is just like custom and rawaj in the community, right? It's something we adopted or something that's easy for the public. But the adhan can be called from the moment the salah time enters. So for example, our Jamaat is at 2 o'clock. We normally give the adhan 1:45, a fixed time all the time, right? But this doesn't mean the adhan can only be called 45 minutes before. Or namaz time has entered that 15 minutes before the namaz, before the Jamaat. If the time enters at 1, even though we're doing Jamaat at 2, the adhan can be given at 1 o'clock, as long as the time has entered. Another mas'ala I mentioned, we did touch about this last time, that can adhan be given without wudu? So normally the adab and the correct way is, and the most desirable way is, you give the adhan with the wudu. But however, if you have given the adhan without wudu, for example, you thought you had wudu, you gave it, you realized straight afterwards, I don't have wudu. Do you need to repeat the adhan? No, you don't. So adhan can be given without wudu, but it's disliked. But not disliked to the extent that, chalo, he gave the adhan wuzu policy. You know, some people say these comments, right? You know, what kind of muazzin is he? Ekad muazzina, azan padi, the wuzu padi. You know, people start backbiting. But the adhan still happens. But ghibat is haram. Backbiting is haram, but we do these things often. You know, Imam might forget, like about 3 years ago in Ramadan, I led Jamaat in the masjid here without wudu. And then on the third rakat, I remember I don't even have wudu. You know, but sometimes we give people the opportunity, what kind of person is he? He read the namaz without wudu, and you know, but backbiting is haram. But if someone does something out of forgetfulness, as a mistake, then that's forgiven in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And obviously, I remember it's a third rakat, the namaz was finished, and then I done wudu and namaz was prayed obviously again. But these things happen. But there shouldn't be a means and an excuse for us, you know, let's just insult him and backbite him. Look what kind he is. You know, youngsters make a joke of something, right? And we know through class experience with some youngsters here. So it's important that if something wrong happens, sometimes something wrong happens, but it might seem funny. Right? If you're youngsters, you start laughing, but it doesn't mean it's the correct thing. And if someone's done something and something wrong has happened, but you might find it funny. But we should try our best not to laugh in those circumstances. If you do laugh, then remind yourself that what happened was incorrect. And this normally does happen whilst I'm teaching the youngsters in class. There's always something incorrect that happens, and instead of the other guys, you know, feeling concerned, like for example, someone might drop the Quran, and what the other children, they start laughing, look, he's dropped his Quran. They find it funny, but in reality, it's not funny. So it's important that, you know, that person made a mistake, he dropped the Quran, but now what we're doing is insulting him, making a mockery of him. That is not allowed. So same way we find that that happens with al-mu'adhin as well. They might forget some words, or they might do the adhan without wudu. So there's no excuse for us to insult that person. And last week we also touched upon this, making major mistakes in the adhan. The adhan will have to be repeated. So if you do lahn jali, any major mistakes, then, like for example, adding a word. And adding a word is so easy to do. ये सबसे easy mistake हम कर सकते हैं. How? Stretching a ज़बर. अगर हम ज़बर को लंबा कर दें, हमने अलिफ डाल दिया. ज़ेर को लंबा कर दें, या डाल दिया. वाव को पेश को लंबा कर दें, हमने वाव डाल दिया. Like बा पेश वाव, बू मध्य असली is long. Ba pesh bu. So if you make ba, dhamma, bu long, you added a vowel. So same with the adhan. If we're stretching the fatha, kasra, dhamma, then we're making a major mistake because we're adding alif, waw, and ya. We're making the madh asli. So we're adding an extra letter. So this is a common mistake. Like I mentioned last week, was people make this mistake. Allahu Akbar. This to starting is a major mistake. In fact, this statement is a guna, because now instead of saying Allah is the greatest, you're saying is Allah the greatest. It's just for stretching the So it's important that we know these things as well. So anyway, if someone does a major mistake, then the adhan is invalid and it needs to be repeated again. Same with the Quran, we mentioned here that it's impermissible to do that. Yeah, it'll be guna. Same with tilawat of Quran. So I know there's no age limits. I know Hafiz here, they read Quran every day, I think, after Zuhr. Yeah? So there's no pabandi on how old you are to read Quran. There's always room for improvement, and no matter which age. Yeah, I've been studying I started when I was 15, 16, now I'm nearly 30. But I still, till this day, read Quran to one of our teachers from abroad. Even though I've read the Quran to a number of teachers, but it's something that you start lacking. It's something that you might falling back on. So there's always room for improvement. So we should continue to always ask those who know better than us and continue to seek knowledge at whatever age it is. If you make a mistake in the adhan, so you had, for example, instead of saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you accidentally read Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. You read the next sentence. Or instead of Hayya ala salah, you said Hayya ala falah. So you missed the sentence, or you read something once only. So instead of saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah twice, you said it once and you moved on. Then all you need to do, you don't start again. You just, if you remember, as soon as you remember, you go back to where you forgot and continue from there. So you don't need to repeat the full adhan again. But however, if the adhan is finished and then 2 minutes later someone says, I was listening while I was walking in, you read the adhan, you get it wrong, you missed the sentence out. Now it's confirmed that the person did it wrong or they missed something out, just repeat the adhan again. So then the adhan will need to be repeated again. I've been to a few places and I witnessed this. First I witnessed it when I started in Nawaz, I was about 15. In my local masjid, I started joining the Jamaat, and someone missed it, the adhan, they never read it, and sometimes people try to put pressure on the Imam. So the Jamaat is about to start, and someone's like, does anyone read the adhan? And they came to a conclusion, no one already calling. Let's start. If you remember, even last minute, I'm about to do takbir, and I remember, I don't think anyone give the adhan. You give the adhan, then you do the Jamaat. So there's no such thing as later just adhan, later give. Sometimes these things happen. Yeah, but we need to always keep the adab of the masjid, the etiquettes of these principles of the Sharia in mind as well. We also spoke about this last week as well. Some people asked questions regarding this. Who should, if I've given the adhan, can Hassan give the iqamat? Does he have permission to give the iqamat? Technically, it's my right. If I've given the adhan, I do the iqamat. But if I give ijazas to anyone, then that person he's taken the responsibility. I've given him permission. So even if you are doing the adhan, then make sure if you want to give the iqamat, you already know that the person who gave the adhan, I need to get permission from him. Okay, sometimes people don't get permission. And this is normal in our culture. Yeah, so we try to override the imam or the person in authority. Now, my grandfather's brother passed away a few months ago. And so obviously my family wanted me to lead the janazah. So we went to the masjid. The rule is the imam of the masjid or the locality, he is the most rightful of the janazah. Even though it might be my father, for example. If I'm not the local imam, it's the imam's haq. Yeah, he has the most right. And you know, our culture is like, they try to override the imam. So it's important, this happens with all aspects, in iqamat, we always need to remember. And so obviously my job to say to them, you're telling me to do this, and which I did, even though I might be qualified to lead, even though it's my grandfather's brother, this is the imam. I don't care what the committee says in the masjid, that I can do it, I can't do it. I'm going to speak to the imam. If he is happy, I'll do it. I don't care what the committee says. Committee is sometimes saying, you know, just for chanda or for, you know, like dosti yari and biladri banda, and they say, you know, chalo theek hai, chalo banda kar dijiye. And imam sab not happy about that. It's guna, because it's the imam's haq. Same way with the muazzin. Like for example, Hassan given the adhan and Khushi sab stood up for the iqamat. He looks at me and I say, give it. I'm not in position to give him permission. Because now he's giving the adhan, his job to give permission. So obviously if he stays sitting down and he looks at you, that's like a silent approval, which amtur happens, right? But all the time remember, a person, whoever's zimmedari is, you always go to the right source, right person. Don't ask the third person, fourth person, like that happened to me about the janazah. The committee members have no right to give me ijazat if the imam hasn't given me ijazat. Now I can't go to central mosque and say, my son has passed away, give me ijazat, he's my namazi or something. And then they don't ask the imam and say, chalo theek hai. My job would be to go to the imam and say, do you give me permission, Mr. My grandfather? If he says yes, I say Bismillah. If he says no, I'll still say Bismillah. Because Islamically it's his right. And I as an imam should know that. Same as if you give me the adhan, this is the rule of adhan. You should know if the person doesn't give you permission, don't get upset because that's his right to do the iqamat as well. So you can't take over the muazzin's job of the iqamat unless he gives you permission. Then I mentioned a few differences of adhan and iqamah, which are straightforward. The adhan is read slowly, which you always hear slowly. It takes 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Iqamah happens within 10-15 seconds. The adhan will be Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, where the iqamah will be Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So adhan is slow, iqamah is quicker. Adhan is loud, and it's calling people from outside to come, and the iqamah will be read quieter. In the adhan, the muazzin will pause after every sentence, ताकि जो सुनने वाले वो जवाब दे सके. So the muazzin says Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. He should pause enough time for the listeners to reply and say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. But for the iqamah, that's not the rule. So the iqamah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and then wise people complete the lines and sort the lines out. And then they mentioned here, just as a side note, that between the adhan and iqamat, there should be a gap of a few seconds. Like for example, Maghrib namaz, we read the adhan and straight away we do the iqamat. Kam as kam 3 ayat ka jo faisla na hona chahiye. So, you know, like at least 5, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So people know that was the adhan, this is the iqamat. Because, for example, if I'm giving it and straight after the adhan, I'm like, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu. I start the iqamat straight away. So this shouldn't be done. There should be a gap between the adhan and the iqamat. Any questions regarding this? There was one actually. Did I miss that one? I think you mentioned it. But I'll touch upon that. The question is about giving the adhan in the masjid. On this sheet, I know that it's makruh to give the adhan in the masjid. And I'm not sure where I did write it, but it's definitely on the sheet. On the first side, right? Or the second one? On the second side. So the question is it makruh? It is makruh to give the adhan in the masjid. So why do we give the adhan in the masjid? There's a difference of opinion on this. The one opinion which I've written down, the makruh one, that's the standard position. That is the normal position within the Sharia. The Prophet ﷺ advised and told the mu'adhins to give the adhan outside the masjid. Outside the masjid means outside the prayer hall. So like could be the side room here, could be the shoe area, anywhere but outside the masjid. And like the Jummah adhan, or it should be the ideal place, the best mustahab place is the mu'adhin, he stands in line with the mimbar. So if you know, or if you know any purpose with mosques, you'll see that the mimbar and the mu'adhin standing place will be in alignment with one another. So amto that happens in places, like Turkey for example, the mosques, even though they give the adhan in the mosque, the purpose of the masjid, they have like a platform with the mu'adhin stands. That's the reason to say that is not the prayer hall. He is technically standing on the place designed only for the adhan itself. So that's one opinion, that it should be given as makruh to give the adhan in the masjid. The other stance is that the purpose behind that, the Mufti is saying the purpose behind the adhan is what? To call people to the prayer. So these days you have speakers. So if the speaker is getting a message outside, then they take that position that there's a reason why the adhan is given outside, to call people to the mosque. Now if the speaker is playing that role, then that makruh, the aspirant of the makruh has decreased. So there is like a leeway to give the adhan in the masjid in that sense. But in the UK we have a slight different aspect as well, is that by law we're not allowed to give adhan in public. That's why mosques don't have loudspeakers. सिर्फ एक जुमे के लिए इजाज़त होती है आमतौर, I'm not sure about, but sometimes in most mosques only that one, like Al Masjid, we don't have ijaazat to do adhan on the loudspeaker outside. So it'll be inside anyway, but either way. So obviously there's difference of opinion, but the correct and the proper sunnah way is the adhan is given and should be given outside the prayer hall. Like our Jummah adhan, where does the mu'adhin stand? Outside in the shoe area with the portable mic, and they give the adhan. So for Jummah we still try to keep that adopted. And at Jummah we're allowed to have a loudspeaker on, hence the adhan is going outside on the street as well. But in normal namaz we don't have that ijazat in this country to give the adhan like that. No question?
I've heard a saying that the mihrab is out of the area of the masjid. If that is the case, I've seen imams, especially on a Friday, to lead their prayers from the mihrab. Is that correct?
That's a good question. So the mihrab, the arch that's made at the front of the masjid, right? Where the imam normally stands. Some consider, or one opinion that stands is that that is not considered part of the masjid. The mihrab area, that shape was cut out. So can the imam lead the namaz from there? That's an ikhtilaf in there. And obviously the stricter opinion is that he shouldn't be leading inside. Hence you'll see the musalla will be back, that his feet will be, because the standing is considered where your ankles are. When we say, so your lines are. And now a child with small feet, standing with a person with size 12, you don't look at the tip, you look at where the ankles are. It's about the ankles have to be barabar. So the saf will be forward and back according to the ankles of the person, not where whose feet are forward, whose feet are back. So it's about your ankles. If the ankles are in line, or where your ankles are, that's considered where you're standing. That's where the masala of the chair comes in. Because when you put the chair, where do the ankles of that person be? They'll be halfway up from the masala. So that's why he's kind of not in the saf. Hence we put the chairs on the side or at the back. That's the rule. So same with those mosques, normally they have the musalla put back. Even though his body is going out, but he'll be standing inside technically, in that aspect. So they try to, that's like alleyway between the two.
Subhanallah.
So, but that masala is correct. The one opinion is that the mihrab is not considered a part of the masjid hall itself. Next, it mentions here about it's makruh to read the adhan in a singing tune. You know, like you might know a Bollywood tune or I don't know some latest English tunes, right? And you're so good at music or rhythms that you somehow kind of tweak the adhan onto that tune. Is dislike to do that. It's like a be'adri of the adhan. Because the adhan should have its own respect, its own unique tune, you could say. It shouldn't be on the tune of, so it's makruh to do that and disliked. It's like a lack of adab towards the calling to prayer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do. Same with the iqamat. So we mentioned adhan can be done without wudu. The iqamat should not be done without wudu. Why now is the saf is about to be made and you're like, you read the iqamat, they're like, I need to go do wudu to safar. Where's the muazzin now? He's got to do wudu because he did the iqamat without wudu. So it's important that we have our wudu for the iqamah. And anything, you know, speaking during the adhan, you have to, adhan has to be repeated. And this is very common that happens. You know, it happens when people read tilawat as well. You know, they make a mistake in the habit of saying no. Yeah, they're like, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. But they should have said Ashhadu anna Muhammad. And they have a habit of saying that, correcting themselves like, and then they carry on, Ashhadu an, now they've spoken. And this very happens, you know, very common, especially, you know, when you teach the Quran as well. The child's reading and, you know, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. They start speaking and then they continue reading. Right? So they put the normal kalam, the normal speech in the recitation of the Quran. This sometimes is a habit of a person which you try to break. But if that does happen and you start speaking in the middle of adhan, then you call the adhan again. You shouldn't be walking around doing the adhan. You shouldn't be screaming the adhan. These are straightforward things, right? I don't need to discuss these straightforward. The rule for listening to the adhan, the sunnah is to stop whatever you're doing. I'll just read through these, they're straightforward. So if you're doing something, I'll explain those, then we'll explain. So the sunnah is to stop what you're doing. This is for listening to the adhan. The listener should repeat the words after the muadhin. So the muadhin says, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That's why he pauses, so the listener can repeat and copy after him. Then after that, we have Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala falah. Then the listener for these will repeat with La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So he'll repeat this instead of saying Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala falah, he'll say these two sentences. And for the iqamat, the person should stand up at the time when say Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala salah. There is a difference of opinion on this as well. Some say soon as the iqamah starts, just start standing up. Hence you see people start standing up, they follow their opinion. Others say, no, you should. When you say Hayya ala salah, or then you should stand up. But obviously there's different opinion. There's no guna in this. There's no such thing like that as in that sense. So you won't be sinful. Okay, so they mentioned some scenarios. This is what is important. This is what we need to know.
Two questions on Iqamah. Does the muazzin need to turn for the Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala salah?
No, not during Iqamah.
Okay, people do. And then also, second one is that some of them will interrupt. Well, kind of interruption as I see it, to you know, kiss their nails and then.
Why is doing Iqamah?
Yeah, whilst doing that.
Okay, so you know, generally we see people doing the adhan. Azan ke duran hum dekhte hain ki you know, is a habit of people amongst Ahl Sunnah to on the name Ashhadu anna Muhammad, they kiss their nails and they wipe their eyes. This is the Sunnah of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Alright? So some ulama, they don't take this opinion. But whereas a lot of our majority of the Ahl Sunnah ulama, they take this as a Sahabi can najulu bi ayyihim ihtadaytum. The Sunnah of the Sahaba. If you follow any of them, you'll be guided. So Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu did it. There's no harm in doing it. At the same time, there's no harm in not doing it. Right? So both ways, there's no issue at all. If someone does it, Bismillah do it. If someone doesn't do it, Bismillah don't do it. But it shouldn't be a reason for ikhtilaf or this, that, right? That's one thing. Second thing what Hajjah was asking is, during the adhan, Muazzin himself, he does, for example, he's doing the iqamat and this happens, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The Muazzin does it himself. That shouldn't be done. Because his job is now, his priority is to do the iqamat. And that's an extra voluntary thing. So the listener can do it because he still got time to do it. Whereas the Muazzin himself, he should be focusing on what his job is at that time, which is to call the adhan.
What about in the iqamat? Can the person doing the iqamat do
No, same
ruling?
So he should not be doing it during the iqamat or the adhan. Whereas the listener, he can do it or do it or leave it. Yeah, it's his choice. Another thing, this is a common mistake as well on the same topic of, kissing your nails and Jummah. During the Jummah, as a second azan, when the Imam is about to give the khutbah, you are not allowed to be doing that. So second khutbah, second azan, when the Imam sits on the minbar and the azan is given, then some people do this. At that time, you're not allowed to do it. Okay, so that's one occasion where you're not allowed to be doing anything at all. If someone is doing something silly, like some children, you shouldn't be even bothering with them. That's the time to focus.
Is that actually considered as part of the khutbah, isn't it, the azan? So therefore, you shouldn't be replying to it either.
Yeah. So the same adab of listening to the khutbah is the same adab to listen to the azan as well. So no talking, no having, no tasbihat, no zikr. Some people in Mufti Sahib's giving a fatwa, and like giving a speech, and people are reading tasbihat, reading zikr, azkar. Like some I'll be doing Jummah khutbah, and some brothers come and they grab a Quran and start reading Quran at the back, waiting for, even if it's the English sermon. When Quran and Hadith is being taught, you listen. Because seeking knowledge is fard. Reading Quran at that time, reading tasbihat at that time, these are nafal ibadah. So you're leaving a higher one for a lower one. Yeah, but this is how shaitan sometimes subtly tricks you as well. So we should keep this in mind as well. Inshallah, I'll touch upon that question shortly, inshallah. So next, they mentioned here, so these are the main adab of listening to the adhan and iqamah. Then one should not respond, this is when you shouldn't respond to this, are all verbally here for a reason. Okay, so, it mentions here that while praying, someone is reading a namaz, for example, azan starts, obviously he shouldn't reply. Because his azan, his namaz, is using a higher form of worship. So he shouldn't be stopping or replying to the adhan. Someone delivering a khutbah, a speech, he doesn't need to. Out of other he can, like for example, is namaz, I'm giving dars and the adhan happens. We're in a separate hall. For example, we say in the back hall, someone starts the adhan. The other would be to teach, in terms of teaching, that there's youngsters here to teach them that we should listen to the adhan. That let's be quiet, let's listen to the adhan. Those are who are in my class, for example, these youngsters. They know some lessons. I say, okay guys, let's books closed, let's listen and copy the adhan. But sometimes when I know this is the last 2 minutes I have with them, I need to teach them something which is fun. Azan started, I say guys, just focus, let me finish this and then we'll go, the adhan is happening. So that's what it mentions here, while teaching and studying. So if the adhan happens, you don't need to reply, right? Because seeking knowledge is fun. So now if you're in a masjid, for example, you're seeking knowledge, adhan happens. Answering to the adhan is 2 ways. One is physically answering to the adhan, and one is verbally answering to the adhan. If you're already in the masjid and you're here to read the namaz, after the lesson you're going to read the namaz, it's as if you've already accepted an answer to the adhan. Right? So Another form of physically answering the adhan. You heard it, you live across the road, you heard the adhan, and you start making a tayari for namaz, wuzu. Now you're physically answering the adhan. So you can verbally answer the adhan and physically answer the adhan. So some scenarios like in a class that I mentioned here, whilst listen to a khutbah, whilst eating roti for example, you're eating now and your mouth's full, are you supposed to be answering the adhan? No. But you physically say, okay, I'm going to finish this and I'm going to go read my namaz. Like for example, Langar Shema we started. Yeah, Thursday night, we have Langar here for example. Whilst we're eating, sometimes the adhan happens for Isha. So now those people there, do they need to answer the adhan whilst they're eating? No. Because they're going to physically respond, why? Let's quickly finish this and make it for tomorrow. So they're doing a physical response to the adhan because verbally their mouth is full, they're eating, so they don't verbally need to respond to the adhan. So you need to do this, understand, or obviously someone is in the toilet, does need to respond to adhan? Obviously not. This is the same way we give, people give salam when they come to the masjid. I'm just touching on some side on the side as well. We come to the masjid and there's 5 people, some are reading nafil, some are reading tasbih, some are reading Quran, and we come in, assalamu alaikum. This is not the time to give as-salam. Because now they're going to leave a higher form of worship to give you jawab. When namaz पढ़ रहे हैं, Allah ibadat hai, salam का जवाब देना नमाज से कम है, for example. So when नमाज को छोड़कर और जो कुरान पाक की तिलावत को छोड़कर आपका सलाम का जवाब देंगे, ये अल्लाह से उससे कम दर्जे सवाब के अमल पर चल जाएंगे. So if someone is doing a higher form of worship, then you don't give him salam. Same if someone is eating, you don't give him salam. Someone is doing wudu, you don't give them salam. Someone is not in the bathroom, you don't give them salam. So normally we hear that, you should always give salam. You have to use your intellect, what scenario you walk into. You might walk in, everyone's eating roti and you're like, assalamu alaikum. Now they have to respond to you. But now the mouth of full of someone, they just do with the hand, that's not sufficient. They have to respond. Right? The hand gesture won't be enough. So now you're making them leave a sunnah because of your misplacement of your salam. So sometimes there's a time and place to apply this as well. I'll just quickly read through this. If there's some sunnah namaz before the fard, like Char Sunnah and Zorki, the muazzin, he should read them after the sunnah azan. If the listener should not copy the Jummah khutbah azan. So this is what we spoke about already. A person should not say the azan or iqamah if he's praying any qaza namaz in the masjid. Okay, so these are very important as well. If you're reading qaza namaz, first thing you shouldn't be reading the masjid. Especially at the time when it is makruh or other namaz that are happening. Because a person will walk in and he'll know that you're reading qaza namaz. So now he's become a witness that you missed the namaz, so he's a witness to you missed a farz. So any missed prayers, you should be reading them at home. Okay, that's one thing. Especially, Isha namaz, when you do the 3 witr, people raise their hands. For example, majbooran, you are reading in a public place. 3 witr, you won't raise your hands. You'll miss the hand part. Because now, chalo, you didn't guna, you missed the namaz already. Now when it's Zohr time and you do the witr and you did your takbir for dua qanut, everyone's going to straight away know, itra witr padhi hai, namaz miss ki thi. So now you make them a witness for your namaz that you missed. Because Zohr time, why you reading Isha for? Yeah? Or you read Isha and in front of them you read the 3 witr namaz, and then 20 minutes later you're doing the witr, takbir a day for the dua qanut in the 3rd rakat. Straight away they know that he misses namaz. So the ulama mentioned to the extent that अगर आप मजबूरन किसी के आगे 3 वितर कज़ा कर रहे हैं, जो तकबीर है वो आप छोड़ सकते हैं, क्योंकि फिर उनको पता चल जाएगा आपने कज़ा पढ़ी है, आपने नमाज मिस की है, वो भी गवाह बन जाएंगे क़यामत के दिन आपके खिलाफ. So that's important as well. जी बिस्मिल्लाह.
घर में कोई देख लेता है फिर क्या होता है?
Same. So अब you need to judge अपनी खुद की situation. घर में आप आदमी बेडरूम में पढ़ सकता है जहाँ कोई देख रहा हो. Or someone might already know that you missed it. आपके साथ जो भी था उसको भी पहले से मालूम है, हमने दोनों एक ही साथ मिस की थी. So he already knows. So he's already a witness. You're a witness for against him. He's a witness against you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Okay. So it's important to keep this in mind. Another thing, the rest are straightforward. If you have any questions on these, inshallah, just ask. If you break your wudu during the azan, what do? You repeat the azan again. If obviously you do not finish the azan.
If you've missed any part of the azan but didn't realize yourself, so somebody, now you finished the azan, you've sat down, somebody's pointed out to you, should you repeat the whole azan or the jumla that, from the jumla that you did miss?
So if you completed the azan and someone told you afterwards that, oh, you missed a sentence out, you do the full azan again. So you won't just go to that part and read that part and continue. Because now you've done things which contradict the azan. You've done different forms of worship or actions. Hence, like for example, talking makes you repeat the azan. So obviously you must have spoken, you must have turned away from the Qibla, walked around, done something, and bumped into someone and they said you missed something out. So if you miss something out and the azan's finished, you remember afterwards, you repeat it again, inshallah.
One more question, but which is slightly different from the thing. This regards the salah. If you, because somebody asked me the other day and I wasn't quite sure. So if salah starts and you've done the first rakat, your wuzu breaks. You've gone to go do wuzu. You've come back. The salah is still on. You've rejoined now. Should you repeat the first rakat again, or should you just do the middle ones that you have missed out?
Technically speaking, the ones you read, you already read. Let's just say you read 2 rakats, you missed the third one, you done wudu, came back for the fourth one, you only missed one really. From that jamaat, you only missed one. दो आपने पढ़ी हैं, फिर वुजू टूट गया, आपने जल्दी से वुजू किया, जब आप वापस पहुंचे चौथी शुरू थी, तीसरी तो मिस होगी मिडिल से. So obviously you got one to make up. So technically, yeah, but this sharait the ulama, if you look at the conditions, that on the way to do wudu, you haven't spoken to anyone, you haven't done things that normally would break the namaz. You just got focused straight, and some in return to some extent that you still trying to keep facing the direction of the Qibla. It's a bit technical in that sense. So the easiest option would be just join back, and for example, you're doing it yourself. You do sulte aapne shuru kiye, 4 sulte out, you broke your wudu after 2, you go do wudu, come back, you know, they say you get started again from where you left off and so on. But the best is to start fresh. Because you might do something that, you know, it's only going to take 1 minute or 2 minutes more, right? So, and generally in our mahal, there's always someone there to talk to you on the way. So you break your wudu, you're going out there, to someone that you learn to what are you doing? Get inside, you know, there's always something might happen, right? So it's important. Just easiest and safest option is that just start from, join back and continue whatever you missed, just do that again.
What is the ruling if you're in the masjid and you are about to leave and the azan happens? Is it now wajib on you to stay in for the jamaat, or can you still leave?
So if the adhan has started in the masjid and you were present at the masjid, now you should stay for the adhan. Unless you got a reason. For example, I'm an imam in Al-Hira Masjid, for example. I came here to visit someone and azan started here. But I know I got jamaat within 10 minutes, I'm allowed to leave. Because I'm still going to read the namaz, but I have to lead it somewhere else. Or you got commitment, but you're going to read it with a different jamaat. Or you might have read it with the jamaat already. But if you're in a masjid and you're just going to go home, watch TV, or just going to go chill and talk to your friends, azan happen, you stay for the jamaat. And I'm told that's why, you know, local mosque, it happens 10-15 minutes before the jamaat, so people don't get stuck in that scenario. As well, people just got busy lifestyle and need to get out of here. Gee.
Sorry, remember if, for example, if I join the Jamaat and if I never had a big wudu and I realized I'm not third car, I never had a wudu, so me to go back and do the wudu and start from there, like completely fresh. Or however, if I was standing in Halat of wudu at the time, and if I break the wudu, and if I go and make sure I don't talk to no one, straight into the wudu area, come and do wudu and join in the fourth car. So my first 2 rakats, I didn't speak to no one.
So then you can do that, then you just make a one.
To make a one. And
but I'm told that doesn't happen. Like people end up doing something.
no, but obviously,
it can happen.
now just to clarify the both must life. The problem is, my worry is if somebody sees me For example, the first rak'ah, I stood up, I did my first rak'ah, as soon as I finished my first rak'ah, I brought wudu, I put my hand on my nose, just went out, quickly came out, I make sure I didn't speak to no one, came back, and that my what it is if people see me, not that because of like doing my first rak'ah, I didn't make them confused. You should have started fresh. That's what I'm saying. So to clarify.
Yeah, so he's just highlighting the point that, like I mentioned, it's best to do the wudu again. Or start the namaz again. But if someone does that, there's no haraj in that. He's not doing it wrong. Because he might have maintained the condition of the correct order of going, not talking to anyone and so on. And then join the Jamaat back. Obviously if you missed one rakat, then he makes a one. But obviously if you can't maintain that, or you haven't maintained that, then you start again fresh. Is that clarifying?
And then because what happens?
No, that's important.
It is because those who understand the masla, and they do that, practice exactly that masla is, and then they do that, somebody sees that, oh, Rasul told us that we mixed it.
No, so like I mentioned, like most of the Masail I mentioned that there are certain different opinions. Like we stand up Hayya ala Salah, some people don't stand up Hayya ala Salah, they stand up soon as the Iqamat starts. These are not major issues. Yeah? If they do that, some guys put their hand here, we put our hand here. They're not major issues. He's reading in namaz, he's doing his fard, he's doing his qiyam, ruku, sujood, he's doing the tilawat, he's reading in namaz. You worry, by the way, you learned it the Hanafi school way. If he's a Shafi or any other school, let him do his way. That's the mercy of the deen. આજકલ people start confusing the matters. You know, in any topic. For example, रोजे 2 बजे बंद करने, असल 4 बजे करने, बड़ी मस्जिद फलाने करनी, निक्की मस्जिद 1 बजे करनी, you know, steady time. The ulama, deen has this different opinions, right? The ulama adopt the opinions according to them, their understanding of the deen. So don't follow your nafs, follow which masala you feel is most correct or most backed. And the backbiting is not. Like for example, in my house, I do the 2 o'clock one, right? The 18 degrees kind of. My parents do the 3:30, 4 o'clock one. And then my sister, she was doing the 1 o'clock, the nisful layl, which is the early 1 o'clock one. So when I go to my parents' house, and you know, my sister is there, my parents, everyone's there. Now 3 times in one house. But not once we had an issue. Neither has my father, because he understands. Said, he said, Bismillah, son, your namaz, you do according to my sister, you study these ulama, you take that opinion, Bismillah, you do it. I'm sticking to my local masjid, namaz padna. We all have this enjoyment of the Saturday, and we just have a good time. People cause the fitna. You get it, like some had a person come to this masjid saying, it's funny one. He came and he goes, I want to follow the 2 o'clock timetable or the early timetable, but my wife said she's not going to roti for me. So she wants to do 3 o'clock and I want to do 1 o'clock. That's your issue. That's nothing. The masjid shouldn't be changing according to someone's not going to make roti for you. It's not for her to. If you want to, how we have cereal, Rahman al-Habi, I want to talk about the cereal. Yeah, so these.
Is there an intention for doing the zon?
Good question, very good question. That should we have a niyat intention for the azan as well? So, the Prophet ﷺ told us that, you know, every action, for the ajr to be there, for the reward to be there, it needs to be coupled with the intention. Right? Like for example, you're walking on the road, you just picked up paper, put it on the side, or stick it on the way. No thought to you at all. It could be void of reward. But now you've done it consciously, you think it's the sunnah. I'm doing it to save people. I'm doing it to, you know, remove harm from the path. For each reward you get the ajr, more and more reward. So you might do the same one action with 50 different intentions on it, 50 different aspects of reward. So same with the adhan, you give the adhan, I'm calling people to Allah. I'm calling people to for the Jamaat. I'm, you know, calling people to the word of Allah. You know, different. I can give it a nice voice, so I'm giving it a nice voice with the intention, like I know Hassan was saying, it's not very nice, right? So if they give the adhan with a nice voice, a beautiful tone, intention should be So people are attracted to it. You know, people listen to music because they're attracted, aren't they? Because the tune makes them encouraged to do something. So someone might hear the adhan and say, that sounds nice, let's go check it out. So some people have become Muslims just by listening to the adhan. So the more good intentions you add to any action, then obviously that's what the reward is. So adhan should be with the intention of calling people for the praise of Allah, calling people to the salah, the jamaat itself.
About Salam, when somebody gives you Salam in masjid, whoever is reading Sunnah or whatever, you have to answer the Salam? Or?
No. If the salam, if someone gives the salam in public, the jawab is only one person. So, हम सब यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, I said assalamu alaikum. If one person gives jawab, is sufficient. Yeah, so every fard of the world need to give the separate salam. So like, you know, I say assalamu alaikum, everyone wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam. The 50 guys is a take one day. Yeah, so it's important that one person in that majlis, his response will, even the rest can just say wa alaikum salam. Comes from, even if you just whisper it, it's sufficient. Like, I'm driving past and I see Habib on the road, I'm like, assalamu alaikum bro. And then, obviously I'm going 20 miles per hour, I'm not going to hear him. So, he can say wa alaikum salam. Even if I don't hear it, but still he has to say wa alaikum salam. The salam will still go to that person.
Look, two people in masjid, they're talking Jannah. You can hear them. So you have to give Salam or
Yeah, then if they get talking gupshup or any masjid, which shouldn't be the case, then you give salam and is it a reminder for them that Ganna Choro, we're here for the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they reply to the azan. So it's a kind of reminder. Then if you know people are wasting time just chilling about, gupshup in the masjid, which they shouldn't be, then you can give the salam to get them distracted from wasting time. Now they're going to turn from, it's all about darja. और every situation, हर इबादत का अपना एक दर्जा होता है. मस्जिद में बातें करना ये ममनू है, is not allowed. सलाम का जवाब देना इससे बेहतर है, सो आप बेहतर है सलाम उनको दे दें. अगर तिलावत हो रही है, सुनते पढ़ रहे हैं, वो आला है. सलाम का जवाब देना ये से कम होगा सलाम देना. So now you leave the salam and let them carry out with the ibadat. So you have to judge it according to your situation. Every situation will be slightly different. That's with all a'mal. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us all the tawfiq to understand this, inshallah.
take you back to the janazah. You know,
So let me just do dua, those who
Yeah.
want to leave,
Yes.
inshallah. I know that somebody's been here for
this one is going to be long, so that's why I'm
Take your
taking
time.
so.
آمين اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم.